I have worked with dozens and dozens of young men, and almost all of them have the same complaint. They struggle with lust, and they've tried everything. Maybe they've tried cold showers, they've tried going on runs, they've tried anything to get their mind off of these lustful thoughts so that they can overcome this vice, and nothing has worked. And we have this idea that there are other people out there who don't struggle with this because they have some sort of superhuman willpower and they're stronger than us and they're better than us. And that's simply not the case. In this video, I'm going to show you the secret that's been hiding in plain sight that's going to allow you to take control of your life again. We're going to make some small changes that are going to start to change the way that you view the world and change your habits fundamentally so that doing the right thing starts to feel easy and natural, like you're going downhill, and doing the wrong thing will start to feel wrong. It'll be hard, it'll be difficult. These small shifts are going to enable you to take control of your life again and set you free from your vices so that you are able to become the man, the husband, the father, the warrior that Christ is calling you to be. Just a warning, in this video, the things that I'm going to share with you seem small and trivial and inconsequential. But the scriptures tell us that he who despises small things will fail little by little. And Jesus himself says, he who is faithful with little will be entrusted with much. So we have to start to win these small battles in order to have a chance to win the bigger ones. Because as men, we want to slay dragons and rescue princesses and conquer kingdoms. We want all of that. But the scriptures tell us he who conquers himself is greater than he who conquers a city. So we have to start with these small things so that we are able to win the bigger battles when they come along. So this is what I want to share with you. This comes from a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear, and it's a great book. And the reason it's such a good book is because James is taking Aristotelian ethics and he's writing a practical how-to guide with some studies in neuroscience from the modern age. That's why this book is so good. He's taking the wisdom of St. Thomas and the wisdom of Aristotle and writing a practical how-to book. So he says in habit formation, there is this 4-step loop. There is a cue, a craving, a response, and a reward. CCRRQ, craving, response, reward. So a cue is exactly what it sounds like. And this is going to be the first small step that's going to let you be freed from this vice. Maybe this vice you've been struggling with for years, this vice that just constantly eats at you in the back of your heart and in the back of your mind, and you can't get rid of it. Start making these small, subtle shifts, and I guarantee your temptations are going to decrease and decrease very quickly. The first thing that we have to do is recognize what a cue is. A cue is some visible or audible something that stimulates a desire within us. So an example of a cue could be if you are trying to lose weight, don't leave a box of Dunkin' Donuts on your counter because you're going to see those bright colors of the Dunkin' Donuts box and it's going to cue your memory and your imagination to say, oh, there's delicious food in there. I should eat that. Not all cues are as obvious as this. Some cues could be emotional or spiritual. Maybe you had a bad day at work and that's a cue for you to run away from your problems by looking at filth on the internet. So those are cues. The first thing that we can do if we're trying to kick this bad habit is eliminate the cues that lead us to the bad habit. So for example, Instagram, Snapchat, all of these social media websites are just riddled with lewdness, with filth, with disgusting things that we don't want to see as Christian men. So the first step that I would recommend if you're trying to get rid of this habit is eliminate those cues. And it can be subtle cues. It could be you're on Netflix looking for a wholesome show that's going to be good for you, and the little thumbnails of all the videos, all the series come up, and there's something that you don't want to see on there. Eliminate those as much as possible. And this is the key. This is what is going to make you not only turn away from vice, but turn towards virtue. What we need to recognize is that most people don't do the best thing, and most people don't do the worst thing. Most people, most of the time, do the most convenient thing. We are all products of our environment, every single one of us. But the thing that people fail to realize is that our environments are a product of our conscious decisions. So we can take back our environment and shift our mindset and shift the things around us to make virtue easy and convenient and vice difficult and inconvenient. And I'm going to share with you exactly how to do that so you can take advantage of this fundamental aspect of human nature. But first, let me tell you a quick story that James Clear references in his book. He says that during the Korean War, thousands of US soldiers went over to Korea. And something like 80 to 90% of them ended up addicted to heroin. They ended up addicted to this incredibly addictive substance. So the US was very, very concerned, obviously, because all these men are going to come back from Korea and they're going to be addicted to heroin. And now we have thousands of heroin addicts just running around the streets. What are we going to do? Well, it turned out to be one of the biggest non-issues of all time. Why? Because these men came home from Korea and they're no longer surrounded by death of loved ones and destruction. And heroin's just not easy to get a hold of anymore, at least not as easy. So something like 90 to 95% of these heroin addicts, these men, these US soldiers, whenever they came home, they just quit heroin cold turkey. That's not supposed to be possible. So what is happening here? What's happening here is that the men shifted the environment that they were in, and it was no longer convenient for them to do heroin. And the cues that were stimulating them to that were no longer present. So they eliminated the cues, and it became more inconvenient for them to seek out that source of pleasure. So we can do the same thing in our lives. We can look at our lives and see what are the cues that are stimulating this desire, this bad desire within me, and then try to minimize those. A quick practical example. One of the men that I work with said that he wanted to spend less time on his phone and more time reading the scriptures. So what I recommended is so simple, and it's such a small thing, but if you do this, it will change your life. I guarantee it. I said, take your phone charger, move it to the other end of the room, and charge your phone overnight over there, and then put a copy of the Bible on your nightstand next to your bed. What's that going to do? Well, you're going to get into bed, you're going to be sitting there, and you're going to be thinking, I got 5 or 10 minutes before I'm ready for bed. Maybe I should go on YouTube and watch some shorts. And you're going to look over and you're going to see your phone all the way on the other side of the room. And you think, man, that's really far away. I'm kind of comfy right now. And then you're going to look over at your nightstand and you're going to see a copy of the Bible sitting right there. And you think, well, I don't really want to read the Bible, but it's right there, so I might as well. You're going to pick it up, you're going to read the Bible for 5 minutes, and then you're going to go to bed. It seems like an inconsequential thing, but do you have any idea how much damage 5 minutes of reading the Bible can do to the kingdom of Satan? An incredible amount. Do you have any idea how much good 5 minutes of scripture can do? The devil knows. He knows exactly how much good 5 minutes of scripture can do. So he does everything he can to make bad decisions convenient. I mean, think about it. It's never been easier in the entire history of the world to pull out your cell phone, and within 15 seconds, you can have whatever filth, whatever disgusting images you want, thousands of them, on your phone right there. It's so convenient. Netflix doesn't even make you push play next episode in order to see the next episode of your show. It automatically plays. Why? Convenience. Amazon has spent tens of millions of dollars doing research, and what they've found is that every time they add a click in between the put into cart and the purchase, sales decrease by about 30%. That's why they have the one-click buy. It's convenience, because most people, most of the time, do the most convenient thing. So we as Christians need to recognize this fundamental aspect of human psychology, and we need to reclaim it for ourselves. So to start with, make good behaviors as convenient as possible. If you want to read the Bible more, leave the Bible out right next to your bed. If you want to use your phone less or go on Instagram less, delete the apps, or at least put the apps in a folder on the back end of your screen so it takes one more step to get there, and you'll notice you just start to spend less time on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube and more time reading the scriptures. But even if we do all of this perfectly, and even if we get this 100% right, we'll never be able to eliminate all of the cravings. We'll never get rid of every single lustful desire that we have as men or as women with fallen human natures. It's just not possible. The devil tempts even great saints with lustful desires. So what do? Well, let me tell you the mistake most people make, and let me tell you what not to do. Please do not do this, because unless you're one of the superhuman saints who can live in a cave and only eat bread and water for 40 years, or can live just on the Eucharist and somehow not die for 40 years, unless you're one of those saints, you're going to need to follow this strategy that I'm about to lay out here. A lot of people, they'll have a craving, even if they've minimized cues, they'll have some sort of craving. And their response to the craving is, oh, I just got to hold on. I just got to fight. I just got to white knuckle and fight, 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 fight. And that is not an appropriate response because your willpower is quite finite. You are quite weak and you need the supernatural help of God's grace. So what do you do to work with your nature so that you're not just white knuckling and fighting and distracting yourself so that when you come back, that desire is still there? What do? This is what you do. You have to get from the craving, the desire that you have, to the reward. Men were not made to be robots. Men were not made to never have any pleasure or enjoyment or leisure. Men were not made that way. We were made to have legitimate pleasures, legitimate enjoyment, legitimate community, legitimate fun. We were made for that. So if you get to this second stage here and you have that craving, you need to get to the reward. That's how you rest and relax. And it's a fundamental aspect of humanity. You have to get from craving to reward. So how do you do that in a way that's healthy? Well, you have to take this craving whenever it arises, and you have to switch out the response so that you can get here from 2 to 4 in a way that's going to be good for you and going to build you up and not going to tear you down and make you sin and make you offend our Lord. So you have to take the craving and find a way to respond to the craving, satisfy the craving, and get to the reward in a way that's healthy for you. So a quick example, some of the men that I work with, they say this works really well for them. You have a craving that rises up. You've eliminated all the cues as much as you can, but you still have this craving that rises up. What do you do? Well, you have to go back and ask yourself, what fundamental aspect of my humanity is not being satisfied? Because what desires are and what they do is they signify that there's something in you that's not satisfied yet. So figure out what that is. For a lot of people, it's loneliness, it's isolation. A lot of men that I talk to, this is probably true for 85 to 90% of the guys that I work with, but they say whenever they turn to filth on the internet, what they're doing is they're not running to pleasure, but they're running away from anxiety, loneliness, depression. They're running away from something more than to the pleasure that that activity provides. So what do? You have to think, and you may have to pause this video and really dive in for a second, but ask yourself, whenever I have those desires, even if I've eliminated all the cues, whenever I have those desires, what fundamental aspect of my person, of my humanity, is not being satisfied? Are you lonely? Are you scared? Are you anxious? Do you feel isolated? What is it? And then figure out a way that you can satisfy that craving. You can fulfill that aspect of your humanity with a response that's going to be positive and going to build you up and going to make you better and stronger. So what some men will do is they feel like they lack affirmation and they want to feel affirmed and loved. And so they get this craving to turn to filth on the internet. What you can do, and this will work for some men, but it won't work for others, but this is just an example. You can apply it to yourself as you see fit. You switch out the response. What some men will do is they'll switch out this response, and instead of turning to junk on the internet, they will plug in exercise. So they'll work out and they'll do some push-ups, do some pull-ups, do some curls, whatever. If you have some dumbbells laying around, this works great. And they'll get the endorphin rush. They'll feel more self-confident. They'll feel more alive. They get the blood flowing. They get their mind off things. They get moving a little bit. And everyone feels better about themselves. Everyone feels more affirmed whenever they have a little pump, right? Not to be vain, but that's just the case. So if you can take this desire for affirmation and you can fulfill that desire for affirmation, not with filth on the internet, but with exercise, then what you'll notice is your craving goes away because the fundamental aspect of your person that wasn't being addressed is now being addressed. Another example, a lot of people have, whenever they're cued and whenever they start to get this craving, what they have is a loneliness. They feel isolated. They feel by themselves. And so they turn to the screen to make themselves feel like they have some sort of artificial sense of community. If you feel that that's your cue and that's what causes that craving within you, you need to switch out your response from turning to the internet to making a phone call to a good friend, Or maybe you call up a friend and say, hey, you want to go out and get some Chipotle? Or maybe you call up a friend and say, hey, man, let's go to the gym. Or you say, hey, let's shoot some hoops, right? But you need to figure out some way to supplement that so you have some community, so you have somebody that you can share your life with. And then that loneliness that's triggering the craving is going to be satisfied. It's going to go away, and you're going to be able to feel whole, and you're not going to be tempted anymore. So to sum all of this up, what do? Eliminate all cues in your life. Is Instagram a temptation for you? Is it a near occasion of sin? Delete the app. Is Snapchat a near occasion of sin for you? Does it stimulate desires in you that you ought not have? Delete the app. Get rid of it. Next, you want to make bad behaviors as inconvenient as possible and good behaviors as convenient as possible. Make it convenient to read the Bible and make it inconvenient to grab your phone and go on all this social media. After you've done that, recognize that you're still going to have these cravings. You're still going to have some desires that are not good and are not holy. Whenever you have that, you need to figure out what aspect of your human person, what aspect of your humanity is not being satisfied, and figure out a way to legitimately satisfy that desire with your response in a way that's not going to be sinful and not going to hurt you or your relationship with God. And then take that craving that you have and bring it to the reward, to the satisfaction, to the enjoyment, to the pleasure in a way that's good for you. And if you do that, you'll be able to enjoyably conquer your vices. You'll be able to become free, to be able to engage with women in a way that's not lustful and selfish, but in a way that's authentic and Christian. You'll be prepared to be the husband and the father and the saint that God is calling you to be, and you'll have more in common with Saint Joseph, the terror of demons. I really hope that this has been helpful for you guys. This information has changed my life, and it's changed the lives of dozens of other men that I am working with. And I just want to say this, if you're watching all the way to the end of this video, for a very limited time, I am meeting with some of my audience to get to know you guys better and to see how I can better serve you. So if you're interested in having a 20-minute chat with me, then fill out the link in the description, and hopefully I'll see you soon.